Closing out last week's discussion on the new covenant, or we could say the so-called new covenant. I mean, it is called the new covenant in Jeremiah. The question is, how new is it? And I think that what we find, especially if we look at the details, that it's not all that new. As several of you pointed out, there are still elements to it. The key part of this question, I think, and the reason why I think this is so important is that a lot of a lot of times the treatment we see of the old covenant, if we want to call it that, the covenant that's discussed and plays a central role in the Old Testament, is I think it gets kind of a bum rap in a lot of churches and a lot of our treatment and thought of it. The covenant is over and over again in the Old Testament called a good thing. If we read in the Psalms, David praises, he just sings praises and heaps praise on the Torah, on the law or the instruction that's there. So we want to correct a misunderstanding of what the law was, or the covenant was, and what it was meant to be. If we look at Jeremiah 31, starting in, let's say, verse 31, "Behold, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, although I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. But this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and on their heart I will write it, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people." Now, what we see here is very similar language. The "I will be their God," and "they will be my people" is taken from, it's a classic covenantal statement that we see in Exodus, and we see out throughout the Pentateuch. They are my God, and I will be their people. But what the difference is, oftentimes people say the difference is that this new law will be on the heart. But here's the deal. If we look back at Deuteronomy 6, the law that the people were given was to be on their hearts as well. So the question is, what is different about this? The law is supposed to be in the same place with the Old and the New Covenant. And what's the difference? Well, the difference is who's writing the law on their hearts. In Deuteronomy, in Deuteronomy, it says this law that the statutes I'm giving you today will be on your heart, are to be on your heart. In Jeremiah, it says, "I will write them on your heart." I will write my Torah on their hearts, or in the midst of them, or I will put my Torah amongst them, and upon their hearts I will write it. The emphasis here is who's doing the writing, and it's God, it's Yahweh who's writing the covenant, the new covenant. So the purpose of the covenant has always been an inside-out obedience and an inside-out change, in that the people write the covenant on their hearts, and their obedience and faithfulness to Yahweh extends from the inside out. That's how it was supposed to be. The problem is that they didn't do that. In the new covenant, what's going to happen is that God himself is going to do that writing, is going to do the writing on their hearts and change them. Their inner person will be changed by God himself. And that's the main difference. There still isn't a difference in expectations. For instance, under the new covenant, people still have the obligation to obey. They are to obey God, and they are to be obedient children and to love him. But the difference is they will be changed fundamentally from the inside, so that they're able to do that. And so the idea of the covenant being on their hearts is not, the location of the covenant doesn't change. It's who does the writing, and that's the important distinction between the old and the new covenant.